Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Maple Madness. We were on a hiatus last year due to both of us living abroad in Ecuador, but we are officially back and ready for a new season of Maple Madness. I'm Kate Bodiker, and I'm joined here once again today by my wonderful co-host.
It's good to be here. As she said, I'm Isaac Sawatzky, and we may have been gone last year. I want to give a huge shout out to my host mom, Nieves, in Otavalo, Ecuador. She sat on the couch and watched all of the games with me last March Madness. I just couldn't miss them. And she was okay to sit there and knit while I just watched the games. Great memories that I won't ever forget.
Yeah, awesome time to be there. And obviously we were a little sad to take a year off, but we are now officially back and more ready than ever. Although I will say, I don't know about you, but I certainly don't feel like I know much more about college ball than I did 2 years ago, but I feel like I'm making up for it with a lot of enthusiasm and more confidence than ever about my bracket.
That is true. So should we get into the brackets now?
Absolutely. Take us away.
So, my bracket. Let's start with the South region. I want you to know that I did my bracket. I'm a big graphic designer. I am a graphic designer. I did my bracket based off branding. What jerseys I liked, the brands I liked, maybe I know a graphic designer, all of those different things. It was kind of very, very objective. Some big note outs from the South here. I had Alabama State beating Auburn. I didn't want to pick a 16 seed, but they had a cool hornet on their shorts. It was just
if they've got the best branding, I mean, that's what the bracket demands.
That's what the bracket demands. Another big shout out, Louisville, great vintage mascot. You should go look at their home court. Not much else here to look at in the South. Kay, what does your South look like?
Yeah, so the South is going to be a big place to start for me. Well, first of all, what I'm doing for my bracket.
Yes, what are you?
This year, I decided to do it based on so I took a picture of each head coach for all the teams, and then I pitted them against each other as if they were in sort of a physical fight. And who I thought would win. Now, this obviously was pretty subjective as to kind of what I thought their vibes were, but definitely I think you'll see later on that some of them felt a little more objective than others. Mm-hmm. But the South, of course, big for me because I am going to, as you'll see, spoiler alert, have Auburn go pretty far. Their coach is pretty intimidating looking, so I think he's going to go pretty far. So definitely Auburn, obviously, going pretty far. A couple more maybe unexpected picks. You know, Yale, maybe not what you would imagine as a fighting coach,
Nerds.
but I thought he would work out well, you know, in those matchups. And honestly, we had a lot of overlap in large parts of our brackets, too. So it's going to be interesting competition-wise to see how things shake out with some of those smaller differences that we've had in the past.
I think I want to shout out, great pick, Iowa State. That's a good pick overall for them to go far. Now, they do have one of their best players down to injury, but other than that, they're good. And their coach, TJ Altenberger, wears that tight medium shirt. Okay, next up, we have the Midwest. I have Houston going all the way here. That's a pretty safe pick, but I love their uniforms in general. They have a cool baby blue Oilers-inspired uniform that's pretty awesome. Some other cool ones here. UCLA, love their vintage court and their vintage overall aesthetic that they go through in the brand. McNeese beating Clemson, that's a popular 5-12 upset as it is already. So Clemson fans I know are worried about that. It was the one team they didn't want to draw as a 12. So had to go with the upset there. I do like their script on their jerseys a little bit more than Clemson's orange and white. Mm-hmm. Kate?
Yeah. Well, in my Midwest, I'm on board. You know, Houston, I think, going all right. But I'm really, you know, I find Georgia's coach, I believe, Mike White, really, he's got kind of like again, not an intimidating vibe in the same way as some of the other coaches, but just really seems like he'd really be locked in if he was taking someone on. So I've got Georgia going all the way. Feel pretty good about that. But there's a couple other moments. I remember UCLA taking on some tough competition. Again, in my fight theory, the same with Clemson going pretty far. Just definitely looking like he was up to the challenge, but maybe not quite winning out against Georgia in the end. But again, feeling pretty good. I honestly was shocked this year at how many high-seeded teams I had doing well. I was really expecting when I picked this kind of gimmick for it to go how it usually does and me having a lot of 15, 16 teams going all the way. But honestly, it shaped up to be much more reasonable than I was kind of expecting.
And moving on to the East region now, how was I supposed to go against Oregon? I mean, they're the kings of branding. Phil Knight, a legend in the game. It is green and yellow. That's a downside to me. I'm not a huge fan of green, but it's Oregon. They have cool stuff. Couldn't go against them. BYU in the Elite Eight. They have an amazing graphic designer. I absolutely love their social media marketing that they have for the basketball team. Shauna Howell, shout her out. awesome. Absolutely huge fan of her work. Big stuff in this bracket as well. Baylor, they're one of 2 Nike schools using the new Nike technology in their basketball uniforms. This style was debuted in the Olympics, but now it's coming to college basketball. Just a cool shout out.
Fun facts.
Fun facts. Okay.
All right. Yeah. So in my East, I'm taking Mississippi State all the way. Again, just when you're coming from that coach perspective, it's just really got kind of an intimidating vibe in a different way, I would say. And again, we'll see maybe some pictures later on. Just a little bit more unhinged of an energy, I would say. Not in a derogatory way at all, but just a different energy than the matchups we'll kind of see later on. But yeah, VCU going pretty far. Their coach was also pretty an intimidating guy. I keep saying intimidating, but it's how I felt for a lot of them. When I was looking at them, the ones that I was just like, I don't know if I'd be on board with that. But
you are talking about a fight.
Absolutely, one of the main factors. So, and obviously Alabama going pretty far as well. Actually, fun fact about that, in another draft that I'm doing, which you can catch updates on the Friday morning breakfast blend, we're doing a bracket challenge there. We were doing that one based on the attractiveness of the coaches, which is maybe a little bit of an odd pick for a bracket, but I actually have my, spoiler alert if you're going to listen in on Friday, I have Alabama going all the way in that one as well. So clearly it's working out for him in the fight as well, but falling just a little bit short to Mississippi State there.
Again, another bracket where it's not too bad. There isn't a 16/1 in this one. Alabama going all the way is just a great pick, or going to the Elite Eight is just a great pick in general. Yeah. Nate Oates does wear great suits. Memphis in the Sweet 16, not too bad. Again, I'm really impressed. You just look like you know your basketball. Moving on to the West. I'm biased, so Kansas. I have Kansas going to the Final Four here. I do love I'm so glad they got rid of the Trajan font and moved back to the Circus font for their jerseys. It was a great pick. Huge fan of that. Memphis, they do cool stuff with the tiger stripe. They're not afraid of bucking tradition and just going crazy and random on some of their jerseys on their core. They got like a holographic jersey. It's pretty cool. But Florida's looking very strong in general. They're a solid pick. I think they're the second most picked team to win it all this year in general. So if you're playing for leverage, they're not a great pick, but good team.
Well, that's actually a good transition because I, as you'll unfortunately see, or maybe fortunately, I guess we'll see what happens, have Norfolk State beating them in the very first round. So Florida, unfortunately, according to my calculations, not going very far.
No bueno.
But we'll see. You know what? That's my sort of marquee upside. I feel like actually the West for me is kind of there's a lot going on because I also have down here Omaha coming up big over St. John's and going, in fact, all the way to take on Oklahoma in the end. Got Memphis going pretty far. So got a couple different teams kind of in the mix here. Again, the Omaha one a little bit perhaps controversial, but I'm feeling pretty good about my Oklahoma pick just from the intimidation standpoint. Really got that going on. But we'll see. Maybe Florida's gonna fall apart in the first round. You mentioned to me off camera, you thought the Florida coach looked kind of frail, right? Yeah, definitely not. I had to stand by it, he really looked honestly like he'd run away from the fight. And it's not an insult to his coaching abilities. I'm sure he's very talented. I really am on board. But just in when it came to fisticuffs, I was like, I just don't know that he's going to hold up to a stiff wind. So. Well, yeah, his team definitely isn't running away from the fight. They're a heavy favorite to win. I think they're being chosen to pick at the second best odds of any team to go all the way. I'm really intrigued. This is probably the most interesting section of the bracket to me is this Kansas, Arkansas, St. John's, and Omaha. You have three legends of the game in Calipari, Pitino, the Godfather, as they called him. Didn't have him winning a fight, and the GOAT Bill Self. And then you have Omaha, who has the best tradition in college basketball, probably, where they take the opposing team's logo, they smash it on, they put it on a trash can, and then they beat it with a baseball bat if they win. It's intimidating, and their coaches too. Yeah, honestly, a good cool down, post game cool down, kind of savor your victory from it. So I'm hoping to see several trash can beatings as we go along in this tournament. That's right. Yeah. Going on to the big one. Our Final Four: Kansas, New Mexico, Oregon, and Houston. I have New Mexico and Oregon playing in the final with New Mexico winning it on. Before I go on to show you some cool pictures, wait.
I just want to acknowledge that I took Kansas as far as I could. I would probably have them going all the way if New Mexico just hadn't really done some awesome stuff with their jerseys this year. Like, they really took the game by storm, and I had to honor that. I love the Kansas circus fawn on their jerseys. I love the tradition and the blendness of new stuff, but New Mexico killed it. I mean, just look at this. Wait, look at that. Look at that. The vertical font with the patterning on the sides. Keep it rolling. What else do we have here? The teal and red. It just matches so perfectly in the embroidery. Oh. What more is there to say, Kate?
He's speechless. He's speechless.
There's nothing more to say.
I like, too, the diversity of, like, colors they've got going on here. Like, it's a widespread, but they all feel like they fit into the vibe. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan.
You're saying it perfectly. You're saying it perfectly.
You were showing them off to me, and I was really like, I see where you got it from.
They're gorgeous.
No. Well, moving on to my Final Four here in a second. We've got Auburn, Oklahoma, Mississippi State, and Georgia. And really, I feel good about all of these. I think all strong contenders in this battle that I've got going on here. Of course, in the end, taking Auburn and Mississippi State, whose coaches, again, both very intimidating, but in a different way. Mississippi State, you've got Chris Jans, kind of like wily almost. Yeah, he just seems like he'd sort of fight dirty. He's like in it to the end, right? And again, nothing against him as a man. Don't know him at all. Don't know that much about his coaching, to be frank. But from the vibe I get from his photos, that's kind of the energy he's giving off to me. And I really felt good about taking him pretty far. But in the end, of course, not coming up anywhere near against,
Legend.
of course, Bruce Pearl. Just not. I just don't see him losing. I just really can't imagine a man that would beat him in a fight. It was hard for me to picture. I kept being like, maybe this is the one, as I pulled up another coach, and I was like, man, he just wins them all. I said almost like, almost as if in like a TV show. He just seems like he would sort of plant himself, and someone could come at him with like 100 punches, and he would just be like unflapped, not moved at all, be like, that's all you got, and then like cartoonishly punch them like through a wall or something. I don't know, his vibe is unmatched in terms of intimidation, so I had to take him all the way, and you know what? Like, I feel good. Auburn going all the way, like, that's
great pick.
Not a crazy pick for the gimmick that I'm doing.
Not at all. Yeah, Auburn's just a great pick to win it all together. His team plays like that too. They play with aggression. They're emotional, but they're also highly skilled. They make lots of great plays. They score well. They defend well. You should see Bruce Pearl after games. His polo or his suit is soaked. Like, he gets into it. He's intense to watch on that sideline. Yeah, well, I'm excited I got more familiar with the coaches. I think it's going to provide an added layer to watching the games. Is sort of being like, oh, I remember that guy. You know, I know him. And like, what would happen with them? But yeah, always a fun dynamic. And I think really the beauty of doing these sort of like fun brackets is it just gives you like something else to focus on. Obviously, the games themselves are entertaining, but just nice to have a little extra spice. Well, unfortunately, that is going to do it for this episode of Maple Madness. But make sure to tune back in next week for an update on the start of the tournament, starting on Thursday, so big things going on. An update on our own bracket competition. Going to be a lot closer this year. In the past, we've had real, sort of a clear division between a skilled bracket maker and perhaps less educated foe. I won't disclose who, but a lot of division there. But this year, I really think we have a lot of the same picks going, but some key deviations that I think really could lead to some interesting matchups here as the tournament goes on. And of course, it's called Madness for a reason. You never know what's going to happen. And of course, we have many, many more fun surprises coming up as well. Well, they don't have to be surprises, Kate. Next week, we'll check in with GC students and staff and to see how they made their brackets and eventually find out who they have winning it all. And make sure to check out next week's episode to see what guests we have. We want to have a different guest in studio every week. We'll see how that goes. Yeah. I just want to point out with brackets one last thing. Absolutely. Your team winning it all, I had them going out in the first round. Yeah. Oh. Notably. We'll see. So a make or break. Notably, my team last year, or 2 years ago, I guess, also went out in the first round. So I'm hoping to not replay that vision of the past. But we're just going to see what happens, you know. And like I said, that's the beauty of the tournament. You never know. March Madness. Absolutely. So that is going to do it for this episode. We'll see you next week for even more Maple Madness.